much for planning. We were going to have the actual groundbreaking first, but now we're going to have our program and refreshments first, and then do some digging. Move everything around. Right. The very first thing that we're going to do is the library chair. Now I'm going to pass out the papers because the audience has to participate. It's just up to the cheerleaders. And where there are capital letters, that's where you respond. And if there's a dash between the letters like L dash, I dash, you spell it out, L-I.
Except at the very end.
Yeah, and then at the very end. You girls see the TV? Or you they're faster learners than I am.
Okay, I know the program.
Now, do you understand what I mean about where the hyphens are and you spell it out? It's probably been a long time since most of you didn't have thought.
Where do you go for the poetry? L-I-B-R-A-R-Y. Where do you go for the history? L-I-B-R-A-R-Y. Where do you go when you're old and shy? Where do you go to learn how to fly? L-I-B-R-A-R-Y. That's how you spell it. What you gonna tell it? It's been in our town for 100 years. Let's give the library 3 big cheers. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! When I say library, you say card. Library. Card. Library. Card. Got one today and it wasn't too hard. L-I-B-R-A-R-Y. L-I-B-R-A-R-Y. Big brick building, how sweet it looks. Takes me on into the land of books. Monon Public Library. Monon Public Library. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Library!
Oh, gosh, you guys did too
Not in the car?
Yeah. Parked over there on the drive.
Okay, I got us off to a good start. I'd like to introduce a few people, so when I introduce you, you'll have to raise your hand or something rather. I'd like to introduce the library board. Sharon McGee is the board president. Of course, she's way back here. I should make everybody run up
With my dad. With my dad.
Raymond Houston is the vice president. Dean Owens is the secretary. Dr. Ken Smith is the treasurer. And I would like to say that Dr. Smith he's just completing his 4th appointment as a library board member, which means that he will have to go off the board. And we certainly will be sorry to see him go. He served as treasurer for a good many years. And it's so nice to be able to run next door and get those checks signed. Betty Del Vecchio. Any dogs in your purse today, Betty?
No. Maybe in Linda's.
Linda Morris. And Carolyn Brown. I don't think Carolyn's a leasing traveler. Then for purposes of our building project, we have a leasing corporation. And the president of that is Frances Stewart. And Frances is the former president of the library board, and she also served as secretary and maybe other offices. I'm not sure. She was on the board for a long time. Shaker Heights is the vice president. I don't believe Shaker was able to be here today. And he is a former board member and formerly was president of the board. Joanne Glotzbaugh is also a member. She's the secretary. She's at a wedding in Chicago. And John Clevenger is the treasurer of the leasing corporation. Our architect is Harry Moore. We've been working with him. Harry and I we jaunted all around Indiana together and just had a wonderful time. Yule James is one of his recent employees, and we're working with him on the interiors. Yule says, I said, I don't think you're a Navy Hoosier, and he said he was a Navy brat. Well, I don't know about the Navy part. And Scott Lee from Harry's office, he's also here.
Thank you.
Our attorney, John Gossett, is here. From Hampton Construction, we have Dennis Hartley. He'll be helping dig that dirt, and maybe he'll put up the sign. I don't know. We do have a nice sign outside now. Well, I could point out a lot of other people. One of our staff members, Nancy Sanders, is sick in bed today, so she couldn't be here. But Olive Klein is here. Olive needs an introduction. And Marge Williams, who is a fairly new employee, works in Chilton County. And Peggy Horton, our children's librarian. Have I left any others out? We're happy to have our school superintendent, Jackie, and the president of the town board. And there may be some other people, I'll mention some time to time. I think a lot of you know that before there was the Monon Corporation, there was Monon Trailer. And before there was Monon Trailer, there was the Monon Railroad. And before the Monon Railroad, there just wasn't much of a Monon. So we're going to have Mary Beth and her family do a little song that's a tribute to the Monon Railroad. And I'm sure this is familiar to some of you.
I wouldn't pay all over, would you? No.
On May 19th, 1913, they had a library board meeting and a temporary library committee. I'm sure there'd been groundwork before this time. They had been finding out who were interested in a library. And they did elect officers. And there were about 8 members on the board and several on the committee. The first president was A.D. Hornback. John Cunningham was the vice president. Lavisa Winkley was the secretary. And the assistant secretary was Maud Burns. On December 5th, 1913, they had a book and magazine show at the IOOF room. and they got 437 books and $2 donation. Now, the expenditures for the evening were $3, so I don't know who covered that extra dollar. But the library board decided that they would borrow $50 for a 3-month period for supplies. Well, then, of course, they had to elect a treasurer, so Margaret Hay was the first treasurer. And this was money was for supplies and rent of the IOON room. They used this room to start their book collection in, and people could go there and check books in and out. Well, it's just kind of a little temporary library. Then, about that time, they interviewed a Mr. True Brookie, an architect from Indianapolis, also a Mr. Dole, and then they do mention some other architects also that they talked to. Now, they didn't have a librarian yet, so see, all this could have been done without me. They built the whole building. They, of course, were searching for a lot, for a site for the library, and they interviewed a number of people in Monon, but none of them cared to sell. So finally, they, on December 15, 1913, they did enter into a contract with Frank Horner for this lot. They also, at that time, had a letter copied into the minutes from the Carnegie Corporation, whom they had contacted about a grant. And the library had to promise to raise $1,000 a year in taxes and furnish a suitable site, and they had to send their architect's plans to the Carnegie Corporation for approval. And for this, they would get a $10,000 grant for the building. It didn't go toward the site, just toward the actual building and furnishing. On December 22nd, 1913, the board voted to have a whirlwind canvass of the town and township to raise money. I can't tell you just how much money they raised. I never did find a final total. But by January, they had $397 promised and $112 paid in. On January 20th, Mr. Brookie came up from Indianapolis. He showed them several library plans and discussed with them just what they wanted for their library in Monon. Then they also entered into the contract with Mr. Horner for this lot, which cost $1,250. Okay, then in February, they voted to have Mr. Brookie be their architect. They still didn't have a librarian, but they had the architect, and that's the important thing. Well, in May, they decided they would receive bids for the general contract for lighting, heating, plumbing, and furniture, and they would open them on June 8th. They had to advertise these 3 times in the Monon News. On June 8th, they opened the bids. They had 6 bids for the general construction. The high bid was $8,168, and they accepted the low bid, which was $6,555.80 from Young and Hodgsher. I believe they were from Monticello. So it doesn't say if they had their architect present or if he looked over the bids. They just decided they'd take that one. It was all just a little different from what we did. Well, they still didn't have a librarian, but then they finally remembered maybe they better get a librarian. So on August 4th, they looked over the applications for librarian, and Louisa Winkley, who had been serving as the secretary for the library board, was hired at $40 a month. They were going to hire the custodian for $35 a month. And they did hire G.W. Miller. He's sometimes referred to as Wilson Miller, so some of you, that name may be familiar to some of you. They made a little trip to Chicago in September to look at furniture. And goodness knows, we've gone around and looked at libraries and looked at furniture. Oh, and I'm glad Buck's here, because I wanted to tell him that the B.H. Brown Insurance Company got the bid for the library insurance. It was $78 a year, and I'm sure ours is much more. Then on November 16th, 1914, they settled on December 11th as their grand opening day, which was a Sunday. And the state librarian came up to speak. He spoke in the evening. They had another lady from the state library that was in town for several days to help them get organized. And an orchestra plays at the church, I'm assuming the Methodist church, also as part of their opening occasion. So I guess when we have our opening, we'll probably have to see if Uncas doesn't have a band. I don't know. What about your band? Well, you'll have to whip one up, and then you got to play Rocky Top.
Yeah.
So that gets us to the grand opening. Ragtime music was very popular back at that time, and I guess, there were just a lot of dances that were real popular, but Mary Beth drew the line at the dance, and she wouldn't demonstrate. But Play a Simple Melody was a big hit, and it was in a musical review, a musical comedy that opened December 9th. Hear that one. That was the date, on recommendation of the architect, L. Brookie, the Monon Public Library building was accepted by the library board. Motion was made and carried that Hodgsher & Young be paid $1,132.92, the balance due to them. Motion carried that the board extend a vote of thanks to Hodgsher & Young for the excellent way in which they had carried out every detail of their contract to the entire satisfaction of the board. Well, I think the library has held up pretty well since 1914, and I'm trusting that we'll feel the same way about hamsters when we receive or finally accept the building is completed. Also, motion was made and carried that Mr. Brookie, the architect, be allowed the balance due him as an architect. I never did find out the total that they paid him. As a token of appreciation of the board for Mr. Brookie's work as an architect, It was moved by Dr. Reagan that the secretary purchase one large picture and 6 calendars at 20 cents each, pictures of the library, and send them to him. So, Carrie, I'm sure we'll find something suitable. When I went through the register of people who were patrons of the library in the early days, I saw a lot of names that, the family names were familiar to me, but most of the individuals, of course, that was before my time. I mean, I've only lived here about 30 years, I mean, I'm just a newcomer. But I did see one name that I knew and loved, and that was Ella Blake, and it's now Ella Gessinger. Well, Ella was just a little girl in 1916 when she became a borrower in my library. And I asked her if she would come today and just say a few words about the early days of the library. We hope you'll be back for many more hours.
Monon should be very proud of an outstanding library. I met so many nice girls that are my friends.
Well, now we're going to depend on our architect, Harry Moeller, to tell us just a little bit about our museum.
I hope all of you picked up a program in back, and there were some on the side. There's a floor plan in here that explains a little bit about the building, or it shows you how it will be organized. It's a little over twice as large as the existing building. There's a little model here that you can look at later that shows what the building will look like. But right now, the existing building is from here to here, and we're adding on the back of the building almost to the alley. There'll be room for parking along the alley and back. And we've kept most of the appearance of the building. This will be the front. We have removed the existing stairs and rebuilt new stairs. A very important part of this project is to improve the accessibility of the library to all the patrons and visitors, so that when you come to the library after we're finished with the remodeling, instead of having to climb these steps in front, there'll be an automatic door on this side and another at-grade door on the other side, so you can come in to an intermediate level that'll be about this far off the ground. Then there'll be an elevator inside, which could take you to the upper floor or down to the lower floor. There'll be all new restrooms in the lower floor of the library. The children's library will remain down on the lower level, and there'll be a new meeting room built separate from the children's library, but there'll be a movable door so that they can expand into each other. Then the entire upper part of the library will be the adult library with reference and fiction and nonfiction areas. The circulation desk, this is the upper floor. There's a copy of it in your program. Is it on the back? I believe it's the upper floor. Oh, yeah, I'll pass those out to people.
Got it back here, Ray.
You need some back?
No, we got some
Oh,
extra.
We got some more here. Everybody got one? Okay.
The circulation desk, which is in the middle of the building as you come in, will sort of span between the addition and the new building and rotate 45 degrees. There will be a new office for the library director up in this corner of the library, and then stacks for the book collection in the back. There's a fireplace that was in the original photographs to the library. This is one nice thing about this project, is that we had some of the original photographs, and at least they appear to be taken shortly after the dedication. Maybe those are the ones that they were referring to in the minutes. In any case, they show the fireplace and some of the original woodwork that is in the library, and that fireplace will be rebuilt, so there'll be a little seating area there. And if you have any questions about the floor plan or anything about the project, we'll be around. Thank you.
Well, you know, being a librarian, you don't always have just totally nice patrons like Ella. You sometimes have patrons like this person that Ollie is going to read for.
What do I do? What do I do? This library book is 42 years overdue. I admit that it's mine, but I can't pay the fine. Should I turn it in, or should I hide it again? What do I do? What do I
Well, we hope you'll turn that book in. Go and sin no more. I asked the president of our library board, Sharon, if she could just make a couple of more.
A little short, she promised it didn't have to be. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Monon Township Public Library, I'd like to thank any and all who have contributed in any way to making this issue possible. It's been really heartening, the enthusiasm and support we have received from so many people. You know, when are you going to get started? Well, how big is it going to be? And people coming in with suggestions and ideas. And it's really helped on those days when you're mulling through legalities that you really don't understand and would very much like to. We realize that the building is not going to be an extravagant building, as some that we have seen constructed are. It is, however, going to be very attractive and very functional and very suited, we think, to the needs of the people of Monon. Surveys were made, you know, before we started all this, and we really tried to take all of that to heart as to what persons, school people said that they wanted people in the community, and tried to fit this library to our specific needs. You know, after all is said and done, we're going to have a fine building. The building is just that. It is a building. And the vitality of any library depends upon the continued support and the commitment of people who it serves. We really need their energies. We need it focused toward the library so that we keep alive and kind of with it. Well, with this in mind, we have decided in the future to establish Friends of the Library group. And we'd like participants from the community to come and maybe help us with fresh ideas for activities and programs and help us implement those programs. Possibly read to children after school or during the summer. Take materials to shut-ins, help with book fairs and paperback exchanges. We think all of these things, there would be something for everyone who would like to get more involved in their library. And so if you're interested in doing anything like this, you can contact Pat or anybody on the staff of the library or any board member. We'll advertise more of this as we kind of bring it along and gel the whole idea of what the focus of this group would be. But we think it is important that you have some input in your library. I just want to close with a thank you to a person who's not here, and that is Barbara Bush. Barbara couldn't make it today. She made a statement. She's been a real advocate of literacy in the United States. And a statement that she made a long time ago, and I have no idea where or when she made this statement, but it had to do with libraries. And she said, libraries are the greatest gift that a community can give to itself. And I have said that over and over as we've been developing this whole building project. It is a gift to ourselves. We established goals, we established objectives that were inclusive, we thought, of what you were telling us about your library. And so we're not working for someone else, working toward their goals. We're working toward the goals that we have established in the mission statement of the Monon Township Public Library. And we're really thrilled to be able to create this gift. I mean, it's been a real joy. I mean, today we are starting to prepare a gift that we're going to give ourselves. And that gives me great pleasure, and I hope it does you too. Thanks so much.
We will conclude with American Beautiful. Hawks are going to play this for us. Then after that, we'll have refreshments, and then Harry has some nice shovels to pass out.
And we have some shovels. I guess we'd like to get some photographs for the archives, and I hope we'll check and see if it stops raining while everybody's having refreshments, and probably everybody who'd like to be in a photograph, we can dig a big hole out there.
We do have some of those nice shovels earmarked for, one for the library, one for the president of the board, one for the president of the leasing corporation, and we'd like the contractor to have one, and Molders would like one, so we want those individuals to be sure to get their shovel.
I'd just like to take a moment to express our appreciation and Pat asking us to be a part of this celebration today. On behalf of my son Michael, my daughters Lisa and Julia, my wife Mary Beth, and myself, and our grandson Tony, who was in the first song, who is an upcoming musical person, I hope. We would really like to express our appreciation and glad to be a part of it. And I certainly hope we don't have any bugs on that. We have had it.
Perform today.
See me after.
So
do some photographs out front here with our shovels.
Well, hi, sweetie. How you doing? All right, good. Oh, your hair's all grown in fancy. Yeah. Yeah, she's got a shovel. Mom and Dad. Sharon's mom and dad. Yeah. She just said we can swipe. Yeah. I thought so. Yeah. Yeah. She got them for us. We can't smell that.
She got our share.
No. Yeah. I'm glad you introduced yourself. Glad you came too.
Yeah, when Mr. Frank.
It's still raining out there. Is it still raining?
Well,
Yeah, my.
Do you want me to get our codes? Where do you want to be? Why don't you come over here?
Okay.
Oh, we can't be in his way though. Okay, go ahead and start it.
I can't get everybody in.
I'm sorry.
No, I can hold it myself. It'd be easier. You want to get under the umbrella?
Get you right there.
Hi! Oh, it's you. You want to throw dirt? You want to throw dirt?
Did you get any clothes?
I don't like that big umbrella. That big umbrella. Hey, I got dirt.
Get some dirt. There you go.
Okay, are you getting
Nice
the
black
shoveling?
dirt.
Yeah.
Use both hands.
Hey, that is round. Good shot. Oh, I don't know. I made a hole in the arm. She can dig in the hole.
So this is in the back.
Mine is not big. Did you get a hole? I think I'll hold you. Hang on there.
Yeah, one more out here, I think. All right. Yeah.
Okay. Harry, do you guys want to fix it? I got to.
Noise?
Yeah.
You probably got it.
I got mine. Okay. Do I have to do another one?
Sure.
I don't have to.
No, you got this over.
Okay.
Post, you gotta get over here, stay away from the post.
That's our crew. Yay. I don't think I got all of them.
And then we should wait for the leasing corporation. That's Francis. The program was real nice, Pat. You included. I'm so glad Ellen.
Yeah, she'd been out of town, she just got back.
And Sharon just.
The adult section. Top floor of the 1992 library before remodeled. Mrs. Raver's office. Bathroom. Stairway downstairs. And there again the bookshelves. The checkout counter. picture of Andrew Carnegie. Directories, magazines, young adult section. More magazines. Outside. A stairway downstairs where the ceremony is being held.
My dad was born in 1910. He was here too.
You get a lot more views on video than you do.
Hey, Sam.
You know, I didn't know him, so they're the way I see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go pick up the car.
Good girl.
I'm gonna move the car up, honey. See you, Harry.
We really appreciate your coming. We know it's an effort on a whole day, but we really appreciate it. It's really added to the program.
Did you hear when I told Mama about that book being overdue?
Ku Klux Klan.
It looks like.
I've got a horse to take care of, so he's gonna go do my horse for me. He's a good man. Oh, thank you very much. Good. Right, my brain. Was it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm full
They have Macintosh.
Can you hang on right here?
They have a buddy program, which I would like. Kids 10 years.
Dad's
They
came in and mom
use
got
the
a
modem
program.
and get on other computers, and they
So then he don't have that. Culture place to park there.
just, well, there's different programs. Nancy is a she knows what kids need. And, but she got seminars, I think, she said that the North White Sun School would be involved in one of her seminars.
It's like the hair I had in the third one.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I was, one time I thought I did it, and then I forgot.
Yeah, well, you know, can you, most
Cabbages are,
yeah.
not everything. They were free.
Well, I
I don't
had
remember.
to do it hard.
Oh, yeah?
No, it's not.
They don't have this building here.
No, I'm sure he's,
But-
we still have one.
Well, he'll get it.
And that's, makes a big
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, Sam, I thought it was good. It's probably regular.
He knows her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
I'd love to see the study programs around here.
Stairway back to where we were. Utility room. Another bathroom.